Hello, 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 everyone. Happy Christmas week. Happy Monday. Hope everyone had a wonderful pre Christmas holiday weekend. How is everyone doing? Good morning, John. We're not going to keep these going very long. And if you don't tune in, and you have other stuff to do, or if you're watching on replay later, that is fine because there are more important things than the markets every day. Good morning, Mark. Thank you for putting in the results from Friday. Again, there's no earnings going on the next. There's a couple minor things today, but I don't even have the chart up. And then there's nothing. There's nothing for about 2.5 weeks. Winnebago, so people don't want to go on land. There's a miss. They don't want to travel in a big motorhome, but they want to go on a cruise. With Carnival Cruise was a beat. Thank you for putting that in, Sterling. Good morning, Patrick. Good morning there, Sterling. Chicago National Activity Index, actual minus 0.12. In lines, a little bounce from prior. What else do we have? Good morning, Royal Palms. Well, it's something I agree with Elon on. The Fed is overstaffed absurdly. Isn't the whole government overstaffed absurdly? And the Fed is like 400 something. To let them still be clueless. I don't know why can't we just get rid of the damn thing. All right. Nissan and Honda are considering setting up a holding company for a merger. What do you think about that from the automotive side, Sterling? Uh, what else do we have? Good morning, Heinrich. Just trying to get there. Good morning. Happy holidays, Eric. Good morning, Jacob. Merry Christmas to you. Hello, Options 22. Where in the world are you? It's like, where's Waldo? Where's Options 22 residing in right now? Good morning, Ted. Thank you for tuning in, Options 22. Good morning, Ted. Grand Rising, Christoph. Good morning, Daniel. So, excuse me 1 second. What do we have going on here? South Korea. What? South Korea. It's always fun to hear where Options 22 is. No more martial law. I think Honda merging with Nissan would be a disaster for Honda. Well, I think they have quality differences. It probably would. Land yachts are like boats. They have nagging electrical grounding issues, and repairs are expensive. From Patrick. No martial law here in South Korea. Well, I'm glad there's no more martial law. That didn't last long, though. So, how long are you there for? All right. Sterling already put in the Chicago National Fed Activity Index. What else do we have coming out today? We have the CB Consumer Confidence expected to bounce from prior. We have 3 and 6 month bill auctions, but there's a very quiet day. Tomorrow we got durable goods and Richmond Manufacturing and Services Revenues Index. But again, remember the markets close early tomorrow for Christmas Eve. Then they're closed on Wednesday. There will be no live stream on Wednesday. In terms of, you have Tesla up a bit. You have Lilly still continuing the rally from last week. Google and Meta, so comm services and your chips. Other than that, it's pretty mixed to down. So you have consumer cyclical and comm services leading the way. Remember, we had the big OPEX rally on Friday. Well, until the afternoon when it got a little choppy. Still baked in for the pause on the next meeting, and we're still in fear mode. Not much to talk about there. So, real quick. So you're there for 7 days. Well, I hope you have a very enjoyable time. So here, when we went through, level I was talking about was, up here is a prior thing. We had the minor levels at the 59.35. We tore through those with massive trend in the morning, then sort of choppy in the afternoon. And we also had the inflation expectations come in better than expected. So PCE and inflation expectations. And then fueled by some gamma on the OPEX day, it tore to the upside. Now, when I start seeing things go through the 4-hour rotation zone, what is my next target? It is the 8 EMA on the daily, which we ran up to and then closing back down. At this point, If you're looking for the little micro levels to resume the little down move, I'm looking at 59.35 again, which is roughly this also where this key close is. So that's the key thing that I'm watching. To the upside, we poked in twice to 50 to 62.5 harmonic. It's got to sustain and follow on with a close above 60.65 before I get in short-term bullish mode again. Good morning, Anissa. Hello, Charles. So that's where we sit there. What exactly was my 4-hour? The rotation zones are the same on every chart. It's just a time frame, but they're always the yellow line is the 8 EMA. The blue line is the 21 EMA. So that's what I'm watching. Right going into the open, if we start breaking below this 59.85 level, I'm watching for a very key support level, about 59.45 to 59.50. We break below that. Critical for me is 59.35. On the rally side, again, this morning, I'm looking at 6,030 as the key level. Right now, we're trading against very key prior resistance becoming support. So this is key that it holds this. And remember, volume will probably be a lot lighter being Christmas on Wednesday and people already winding it down or even taking off the whole week. So really, I'm watching this 59.85 and 60.30. Anything else in there is scalping. The NASDAQ. The NASDAQ still, remember, did not close below the 62.5 on the daily. Dropped down, hitting the harmonics. I already readjusted those, but it did drop down, hitting the prior harmonics. See, I can bring those back up. You can see it spiked with the lows on Friday. So therefore, I've dropped them. We don't technically have a daily pausing bar yet, but we do have a 4-hour pausing bar. Right now, the key thing I'm watching on a closing basis is this 21.344. And for a breakout resumption, now it's still technically neutral mode, but this is where on the NASDAQ buys and sells are equally balanced for me. There's no favoring one or over the other since it did not close below 62.5. But it is in neutral mode because we did close below the daily rotation zone. NASDAQ, very key resistance is 21,730. Very key support is right where we're trading, just above about 21,550. If we break below 21,550, I'm really focused on 21,344. We break out above this 21,730 area, then I'm looking at back to about 22K. 22K. The Dow, which is in bearish mode on the daily, and closing right at the bottom of the rotation zone on the weekly. Trading below that to start off this week, but last week, closing right there. That's why I watched that 21. It is very critical level. But based off the daily, I'm really putting the Dow in neutral mode at this point and on the weekly and daily sell. So I'll favor looking for rollover plays in the Dow right now. With the Dow also trading right this morning against the key support level. 43,150 area. 140, 150. We start breaking down, I'd be watching for 42,750. If we did break down beyond there, it's a great area to do the price projections that I talked about. I'm thinking this is going to reconnect with the 200, and that's where the 62.5, and that's where our harmonic projections potentially are too. So this is a very strong magnet area. And we bounced off the 50% harmonic on Friday, which was also prior key support area. So intermediate level, I'd use 42,100, and then major target area would be 41,769. Russell triggered to double. Little weak bounce so far. I'm watching in rollover plays in Russell. Russell reconnected on Friday with the 200 simple, where you see it's held support. So that's going to be very critical, and that was right at the first target area of the double. So it's critical now that the stops are lowered on this, and the invalidation point, I would not keep a stop that far away, but the invalidation point is 2,395. All right. The VIX still slightly elevated, but we'll probably have more volatility getting sucked out unless we do get a substantial sell-off. The DAX had a little bounce on Friday back up, dipping below the 50, and now rotating back down. The DAX is technically in neutral mode on the daily, but looks like it's going to shift to bearish mode potentially. And on the weekly, just peeking into the weekly rotation zone. So it's interesting on the DAX because of the DAX, and I'm expecting it to roll over again, especially once we get the cross of the rotation zones. I'm really paying attention to this 19605 harmonic, 19600. Why? That's right at the bottom of the weekly rotation zone. We close back below there. We could be in neutral on the weekly and bearish on the daily, and then the next magnet price would be 19K. Notes. We had a little reprieve. One pausing bar. If this wasn't a holiday week, I'd really be paying attention to a possible breakdown if we get a single pausing bar break. But given it is a holiday week, I'm not so confident in that one. So I'm more watching for possibly a sideways correction in the note prices and possibly a sideways correction in the yields, letting the rotation zone catch up. Remember, that's another setup I look for, which, okay, we got a pausing bar. We might turn into a choppy sideways correction for a bit. I'm going to be paying attention to the 8 EMA coming up towards this 4.5 level. That's what I'm looking for. If we do break out higher, we still, remember, have the magnet price of 4.7, which is a prior 87.5 harmonic. Dollar index, same difference here. We got the pullback on Friday. Now going to be watching pullback just above key support. I'm watching as the 8 catches up to see if it can really break this higher. And the key level is the 62.5 harmonic in the harmonic projection, right about this 108.80 area. So that's very key to watch. Would not get concerned about the bullish play on the dollar unless we start breaking back below 106.50. Crude has a whole lot of nothing going on. Whole lot of nothing. Speaking of crude, does anybody watch that streaming show Landman? Does anybody watch that with Billy Bob Thornton? Natty Gas broke, remember, out. We did the harmonic projections and we did the key resistance area last week. 3.91 to 3.96 was the key target area, spiking up there and reversing. Now I'm going to be watching for a reconnection with the daily rotation zone. Mike, if there are two patterns present in the stock, how do you determine which targets to use, even if the targets aren't that different? X has triggered a daily head and shoulders and triggered a daily double top. Let me jump to X real quick. What I do is personally, this, what I would do is the ones that align also better with prior price action. So let me give you an example. Just wrong click. I then favor the ones that set up what I call the clusters. So you see here, if you were going to use the prior double targets, see how we already have a very key level right here? That lines up nicely with the second target. And then if we look down at the 4 hour and everything, we can see that spike down there. If you go to here, the aggressive targets, it's even beyond that. And the second target does not line up nicely. See how it extends there? So based off the double, I'd use the conservative side targets. And on the head and shoulders, if you're trying to do this very, very sloppy head and shoulder, it's not going to be much different. I'd still be looking, right in this area to see what what targets line up with that, because that would be a major target cluster. I hope that answers your question. Gold. Gold technically triggered a 4-hour double bottom and is holding. Shoot. And is holding. I'm trying to grab the other line. There we go. Dipping back to the area between the peak and the candle bodies. So I'm going to be watching to see if it can get any rotation back up here, but it has triggered. Silver had the little mini double on Friday and went to target. So that one's done. Other than that, there aren't any great setups right now. Besides the only one I'll be watching, and it was really gold because it has not come up. And silver is still below a very key resistance level with the decline in rotation zone now. Copper, not much to talk about. The yen, this is another one. Basing at the prior support level. Prior resistance becoming support level with the rising rotation zone. So I'll be continuing to watch for more yen weakness, again with the magnet price being 159 roughly based off that cluster. Euro rotating back down. The only thing now that would make me longer term bullish on the euro would be if it were to trigger this double. Other than that, you see how well it's held the rotation zone. Every time it's pulling in there, it's rotating back down. So that is about it. Spiders. Again, your key for, at least for me, my key for me to get back into, instead of bearish mode on the daily, back into short-term bull mode is a close above 598.51. Other than that, I'm using the harmonics, but a key support level separate from the harmonics is 586. To the downside, if we take out Friday's lows, you have a major cluster area about 577.40, and then 573.87 is the next harmonic. You are welcome. Is the euro in a 4-hour double bottom? You mean the little mini one? This, yeah, it's in a little mini 4-hour double bottom. I didn't go that far down in detail, but if it does a little bounce, again, it's just to a prior key level. And remember, it's against the rotation zone, and the final target's on the other side of it. So these are the kind of ones I'm very cautious on, because it's already triggered right against the rotation zone and couldn't even close into it on the daily basis. But it's still technically a double. The Qs holding right at that 50 EMA. If we take out Friday's lows, the next targets are 505.50 and 501.80. The Qs, though, the key thing for me is right now, I'm just using the harmonics, 520.40, then 524.22. Then on a closing basis, 527.95 for to shift the probabilities into a retest of the highs. Bitcoin, after the big run up, has pulled back to the 50. First reconnect with the 50 since the breakout back in October, and trading against very major support. So this is a very key level. This is very key for at least short-term stops, about 92,200. We start closing below that level, it's lost a very key support level, and we could see a much bigger dip. Now, we're also getting the downward first cross the rotation zone. The only thing here you can pay attention to is if this is a little mini double bottom, it fits into the parameters. Okay, we went down below the 75. So in order for me to get in short-term bullish mode with Bitcoin, it has to, at least on a 4-hour basis, get a close about 99,596. And then we could run back up and take out and retest the highs. Now back to Sterling's other question, why would I use the conservative side again on this? Because the aggressive side, the final target goes into the wicks on the 4-hour. So what I've done with, and this, if you look again, I compared the targets, but if you look here, you see how this peak right there lines up with the first target. This breakdown zone right there lines up nicely with the second target. So there's another good example using it something else. You know, I'll do the same kind of analysis on all the charts. Also, since Bitcoin did drop below the daily rotation zone, it's technically in bearish mode on the daily, but still bullish mode on the weekly. Also, why I'd use the conservative side targets for that. Hey, Freedom. Thank you for tuning in. So, hope you do too, Jake. Thank you for tuning in. So that's a little more, little teaching the way I do things. By the way, Tesla, pulling back in the daily rotation zone. The secondary bounce level for Tesla key on the closing basis is 461.95. Right now, if we do continue, if Tesla continues to falter, it looks like it's bouncing now, but the key to watch for is roughly this 400 mark. That's the bottom of the daily rotation zone. Prior to that, on a continued bounce, prior to the 461.95, you're looking at about 452 to take you into the rollover zone. NVIDIA, little chips are bouncing again. NVIDIA, after triggering this, a really sloppy head and shoulders. Again, with a walkaway trend line, but what's key for me in order to validate the pattern, it's not technically lower yet, but I'm watching 143.13. What else? I don't think there's much else to cover. What else was on the heat map this morning? Let's just take a look. When we got, oh, we still got Broadcom, I forgot. Broadcom will also be something now with the secondary reaction. The little minor levels, if the lows from Thursday hold, for me to get into bullish case again, you'd have to get above 239.02 on a closing basis. It's against the daily rotation zone area right now. If we do break below that, this is where I also look at the, you could do your gap harmonics, but you do have a gap back down to the 50 EMA area if it really breaks lower and prior major resistance becoming support. So keep an eye on that if we start taking out. I would be paying attention to the area of the rotation zone, but if you start breaking below Friday the 13th's low, Friday the 13th's open, 213.90 could be over in the short term for Avgo, Broadcom. SMIC. Is it doing? Well, let's see. That's not coming up. Oh, there we go. The Swiss Market Index Total Return. I'd be watching for rollover plays personally in this one. If you were looking at this, it's broken a very key support area with declining rotation zone, and on the weekly, you last week closed below it, and so any rallies back into the daily and or weekly rotation zones, I'd be looking for sells. So this finally holding the daily rotation zone, and on Friday ripping through that 62.5. So yeah, the next key levels now, since you have a pausing bar, we reacted. If it keeps on marching to more insane valuations, your minor levels, your very minor levels would be, which is probably going to gap up above, but your very minor levels would be about 82.52 and 84.12. Your next major levels next major level is 90.28. So that's where that sits. All right, that's all I have for you. I hope everyone has a wonderful trading day. Hold on. Can I take a look at Vail? I have the 87. That's 87.5 landing on 858 last week. We got as low as 868. Does that qualify as hitting the target? Let me take a look at Vail. I'd still not yet. I mean, I'd definitely be lowering a stop along the way, but no, this still can a magnet lower. That can still magnet lower. And it can easily retest. I mean, it's retested the upper breakout range, but this is based off the weekly. Look at some of these weekly closes right in there. They're virtually at that 850 area. So that's still going to be a magnet price down there. And you still technically have a gap fill down here. You still potentially have a gap fill even to 827. So this is an example where on any bounces, I'd just be watching continued for rollover plays. But I'd be trailing anything. From the short side, I'd be trailing stuff. Okay, Ted? All right. Let's just see where we open today. Again, don't be forcing trades. If you don't have stuff to do, just enjoy the holiday week. You know, you don't have to. Right now, on any bounce, minor resistance is a 6,010. Very significant overnight resistance is this 6,030, 132 area. The tick, moderately weak, not very weak, but moderately weak. So I'm going to see how on the tick bounce how strong the S&P can get to. If the S&P cannot get through the 6,008, 6,009 level, I'll be really focusing on a return to this 59.85 in the short term. All right. I will talk to everyone. We'll do a very fast live stream tomorrow. If you have other stuff to do that. That is more important. But we got durable goods numbers tomorrow, so I'll do a quick live stream and see if anything's set up. And then there'll be nothing on Wednesday and probably a short one again on Thursday. I'll talk to everyone later. Have a wonderful, wonderful day. And talk to you all. Bye. Bye for now.